in the fall equinox and a full moon overlooking Lake Titicaca. A moment of enlightenment, a moment of freedom, a moment of power. So I'm going to meditate to a piece of music called Waves of Light. We'll see how this goes. the root of our problems. In Buddhism, they refer to it as ignorance. I refer to it as amnesia. We forget. We forget. We have a life. Things happen. We die. And then we go back. We go back up into the higher self, into our own higher self. We just unhook from the root chakra and we just sail right up into the higher self. And the higher self is connected completely with the void. And then there's a moment of recollection of all of your past lives. You start seeing how you have moved steadily into the awakening process, and it's been very, very slow. In each lifetime, you grow very, very little, usually. You have forgotten everything before, thank goodness, but on the other side of it, you have to learn everything fresh. You have amnesia. You have powers, latent powers, that you have created in other lives. And some of them may actually come into fruition, they just bubble up. Maybe you have, a green thumb where you just touch plants. My grandmother was noted all over the Pecos Valley around Roswell, Artesian, Carlsbad. She was well known as a midwife. She could breathe the life into babies that were stillborn. It was a gift. We all have gifts that we bring from other lives. There are things that just come easy to you that's not so easy for other people. But you forgot. You don't remember who your previous parents were. You can't even speak that language. You may speak it, but you don't understand it. You say, "How is it going?" Ruisbaka. It has feeling, but it has no meaning. I have amnesia. I don't remember any of my past lives, except that they do pop up now and again. I get a little glimpse of them. But they're erased from our memory when we drop into these little bodies. And we have to learn new language, new culture, new family, new social structures. We are pressed from every angle to become a member of a reality that is shared by everyone around us. And if we start moving away from their reality, they react violently. We are controlled and manipulated and dominated, usually through fear, to become a part of what we call our life. And what we call our life is not our life, it's our experience. Buddha referred to this as the nightmare of the day. So we're taught a language, and in this body we have experiences. We have been influenced by everyone close to us. Everyone that we love and everyone that we hate is very close to our heart. You say, how can somebody we hate be close to our heart? Because they're always there. And the energy that you have when you hate something is so karmically incorrect. So what we do is we learn the language, we learn the family, we go through our childhood, we do fantasies, we're playing all the time, pretending. And then we go into our adolescence. And children go through a homosexual stage between the age of 5 and about 9. Boys hang out with boys, girls hang out with girls. They don't like each other. And then when you start getting into your teenage years, you start examining the opposite. Start looking at it, experimenting. And in the clumsiness of that experimentation, we make a lot of mistakes. We hurt each other, sometimes intentionally. But all of this is brought forth out of ignorance. We have forgotten. We have forgotten that we are not separate from anything. That everything that there is, and everything that has ever been, and everything that will ever be, comes from a single dream of the divine. We as human beings take this insurmountable, this incredible thing that we call God, or divine mind, or whatever you want to call it. We take it and we put it in our image. So we create the divine to have a personality and to be up there and to, be angry with us or be pleased with us. We separate ourselves, because what happens is when we have come into the body, we were single. Up here we knew that. We knew all of the past lives. We knew our past, and as a matter of fact, we went high enough, you would know the past lives of everybody and everything that's ever been. Every butterfly from 2 million years ago, you're aware of it up there. You can see it. But we pull that down. It comes down through our higher self. It's 1, 1, 1, 1. But then, when it gets right here, it breaks apart. And we have eaten of the knowledge of good and evil. And in that we have become like gods. We are entered into conflict. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm stronger, you're weaker. I'm richer, you're poorer. I have it together, you don't. And in that, we push against each other. And we find things that are pleasurable, and we want those things. And we find things that are painful and hurtful. We don't want those things. And so we build a construct of a lifetime. We surround ourselves in kind of a Facebook bubble where we have our friends. And anyone that says something negative or not along our way of thinking, we just delete them. Not friend no more. And out of that we create religions, politics, countries. The terrible thing that happened here in this area was one of the countries conquered all the rest. They destroyed cultures and created an empire. The karma was so intense on that. Even though on the outer surface it looked pretty powerful, inwardly it was a karmically human-made disaster. And it only lasted 150 years. And the karma then brought in, because of their lack of awareness, brought in even eviler army that came in to destroy them the way they had destroyed the people around them. And the greed and the violence and the fear, the domination, all the control, the manipulation, spiritually manipulating people, created a hell world. And then it all went away, just in a couple hundred years. And we're left with the ashes. Nothing to be really proud of. A lesson to be learned. Everything is transitory here. Everything will go. Nothing will remain except enlightenment. You are eternal. You will never die. That's the good news and the bad news. When you realize that you're not going to die, then where you are at that moment of realization, you start saying, oh my gosh, I've got to do this forever. And maybe you do, unless you change. There is a way out of this hell world. There's a way out of this repetitive pattern of birth, maturation, decay, and death. Bardo, birth, maturation, decay, death. There's a way out. And the way out is through meditation. When you stop your thoughts, the wheel stops. The only way you can get out of this life is, as human beings, is through meditation. It's like a little crack in the wall of samsara. A little crack that when you meditate, you start easing up through things. You start cutting through the layers of the things that, the misconceptions and all of the attractions and all of the aversions and all of the desires, all of the clinging, all of the pushing away. We can move through that meditation. We can stop our thought and focus on our higher self. Once you have moved past this nightmare of the day, you start loosening up. It's when you were first born, everything was pressed around you very tightly. You have infinity all around you in every direction. There is no end to eternity. There are no edges. You don't go to the edge of eternity and say, okay, this is the edge of eternity. And because you can't find an edge to it, there is no center. There is no highest that you can go. There is no lowest that you can. It's all just a matter of a field of attention. That you, as a single drop of water, now looking at the vast ocean and the sky above, try to make sense of. And one of the ways that's made sense in this dream is to have family and friends and education and experiences and enlightening opportunities that spring up from the soul. But you are tight. You're tight. You're so tight in your world. If you're a Christian, you just can't believe that anybody else is right except you. And you have all of these people that will swear to that. Same thing if you're Buddhist. Same thing if you're in Islam. But the problem with most religions is that they are created in this world of duality, where you think I'm right and you're wrong. I'm more powerful and you're not. There are good and wonderful and supportive spirits that aid us in our enlightenment. And there are these terrible, horrible spirits that try to bind us up into the hell worlds. You're fighting these inward things. I'm fighting ghosts, I'm fighting demons, I'm fighting bad people. And the fighting, duality, duality, duality. So we find that in this world of samsara, where you have the hungry ghost, you have the hell world, you have the human world, you have the animal world, you have all of these different worlds. But at the top there's religion. And it keeps you in samsara. Because it is based upon duality. God is up there, I'm here, and Satan is down there. Or maybe I'm Satan and just God up there, but it's still duality. But when we meditate and we start to awaken, that tightness, that thing that we have, starts to kind of come apart. The rug's always being pulled up from underneath us to cause us to have a moment of awakening. If everything was always just perfect, you would never grow. Because you would be locked completely inside that little ball of your world. But when you start to dissolve that world, when you start opening up to new ideas and new ways of being, when you're able to sit with another powerful teacher and feel their enlightenment move into you and you move into them, and then suddenly the whole universe just goes, pow! And you moved into enlightenment. And the root chakra pulls you back down into duality. The first thing that you think when you come out of samadhi is wow. And that wow has no language. But what it is, it's a statement that I am here and I just had an experience that I was separate from before. And you come way down to that. White light turns into gold light. The gold starts to become more solid, take form and movement, and then other colors, grays and reds and yellows and blues, and the world starts to take form, and then you have your first thought in language, like, wow, that was incredible. When you have that statement, even though everything is still white, everything is still gold and very non-diffused, you are no longer in samadhi because you are aware of it. You have moved from a timeless, spaceless, awareness, and you come down and you put it into a language. And language is duality. We all have a problem with it. In order to teach, the enlightened teacher has to move into the samsara. And they have to teach the language of the people around them. I know of an enlightened teacher who never says anything. She just does Shaktipat. I like her. But there's no structure. So people take the Shaktipat. She never talks. People take the Shaktipat and they put it in their old bags, and it ferments, and their bags burst. Just burst. And that's her teaching method. She's constantly breaking up old ideas and old forms without ever saying a word. But most of us we need to have a structure. We need to have a path. We need to have friends. So we have Sangha, and a Sangha is a group of friends. It's a Facebook bubble of friends, but they're on the same path. The law of attraction has brought them together. The law of correspondence has brought them together karmically. And now they're there to working together. And they're not the same, they're all individuals. But they're kind of on the same path. And the path that they're going to into the divine is called the path of Dharma. And the path of Dharma seeks to always create everything as one. In the Vajrayana and Tantra, it is a reconciliation of opposites. Tantra is not sex. Sex happens. But that's an American thing. Too focused on that. What Tantra is taking the highest, that undissolved, that perfect, beautiful void, and pulling it down into the samsara, dissolving it, and taking all of those problems, all of the shadow material, all of your fears, all of your flaws, all of the things that you have done, and all the things that have been done to you, and you grab them and you pull them up here and you hold them in the sacred spot. And you know that when they go into that spot, there is no points of reference. They go in there and there's nothing for them to stick to. It's a very interesting place. It goes in there, nothing to stick to. And you don't just stop there, but you take that divine, this is a tantric maneuver, taking the divine and I'm breathing it down into that spot that was before full of anger or hatred or whatever, that's now dissolved, and I'm putting divine unconditional love on it, which means things don't have to change in the samsara at all. But I have removed all of my attachments to it. I have surrendered it all. I have dissolved part of my consciousness in the void. And when that happens, something magical happens. When you do it, you find peace. And if you do it enough, compassion on its own, compassion just springs forth like a beautiful flower. It starts to bud inside your heart. And you quit judging people because you're moving away from this idea of duality. You're moving everything into unity. It's what Tantra is about. Taking the highest, moving it into the lowest, taking the lowest, moving into the highest, back and forth until they are one. It's a simple process. It doesn't require a lot of education. If you really can figure it out, and it's pretty easy, I think, you can change your life. If all of humanity did this, we would move into a golden age. We would no longer have people not paying their taxes. We would no longer have people homeless. We would no longer have people starving. The answer is all inside of you. You. You're the answer. Not some God up there, but you. How are you manifesting the divine? You're bringing it down, and now you're back into your language, you're back into your society, you're back into all of these things. What do? You just love God. And God is not anything separate from you. You are God. You say, well, that's pretty egoic. No, it's not. Because in this realization, I definitely am God, but I'm also definitely aware that you're God too. And I'm also definitely aware that everything that I'm aware of is God. That there's nothing outside of me that is not the divine. I am not separate from anything. I start to lose my egoic self that judges and strikes out without even thinking, who says horrible words, swears, and uses that energy of the word to go out and corrupt. I'm watching my thoughts, placing my thoughts on the divine. And when I'm looking at life and have something that interests me, I figure out what it is that I want, but I don't say what I don't want, because I don't want to put energy there. And what we focus on, we tend to become. That's the beautiful thing about creation. Remember I said earlier, we became gods when we became souls. And what we focus on, we tend to manifest in front of us. And most of us have dualistic thinking about what's in front of us. We're so corrupted inside of here that we have desires that if I get this, I'll be happy. If I do that, I'll be good. And that is just part of the samsara. But we have things we like to do. Things that apparently interest us. And if I want to explore something, why not? I have a life to be lived. I'm not particularly keen on going into some cave and sitting there year after year, dissolving into some sort of a, I don't know, hallucination of enlightenment. Although that's a good thing sometimes. I'm more into living life. I only have, and you only have, my friends, a few years, a few short decades. You don't really get it until you be around 60, I think it starts hitting you. Then it starts coming on like an avalanche. That your time is diminishing. And death becomes your advisor. You start seeing what's important. And you start understanding, if you're awake in any way, you start understanding the divine nature and the importance of taking that power of creation that's in every one of us and focusing on the highest and the best, the joyous, the happy, the exploration, the adventure of life. We turn away at some point, we walk away from the slavery of our desires. We learn how to move away from the operating system that has existed on this earth for tens of thousands of years, an operating system that is based upon fear, control, domination, and manipulation. And you'll find that in your religions, you find it in your politics, you find it in your societies, you find it in your family, you find it in your love affairs, you find it in my team is beating their team, it's important that our team win, all of this craziness. And you realize when you die, that all goes away. And then when you do die, you have this moment of reflection where you see your life. Not only do you see your life as it was, you see all your previous lives. And you see how you have grown in awareness, lifetime on a lifetime. It's a perfect, beautiful tapestry. You lose the concept of man and woman. That's duality. You are not a man and you are not a woman. You're experiencing that in this life. You're identifying it with that in this life, and that's proper. But you're more than that. You're more than this universe. This universe is a reflection of your consciousness. Your universe is different than my universe. I was put together when I was born by a different family and in a different town and a different sociological, educational, all of these different things. I was put together that way. You were put together with yours. My mother was very loving and very spiritual. Maybe your mother was the opposite. But here we are in the same room, and we can meditate together, and we can drop all of that duality and realize the infinite perfection of our soul. And we start realizing the importance of what we're focusing on, and not just how much we're focusing on it, but the intentionality that goes behind that focus. I want to get a better job. And then comes the duality. But. And that but takes our focus over here. And we limit. Focus on the divine. Merge with the divine. Dance with the existence of creation. Dance a beautiful dance. Don't be attached. Don't try to control, dominate, or manipulate. Don't live in fear. Be free. Live a glorious, happy life, no matter what the circumstance. No matter what happens. The thing closest to you dies. It's painful. But if you realize the eternality of all, you'll move your little body and your little emotions past it eventually. And you'll open up and you'll realize that that you thought was dead is still there. It just doesn't have a body anymore. Why is it still there? Because it's part of God. It can't go anywhere else. It can never be destroyed. But we attach ourselves to each other in this life. And we can talk about how much death is not a big thing, but when it happens, it's a very big thing. Whether it's your little animals, or your lovers, or your parents. Death is a big thing for everyone. Until you awaken a little bit higher, and you see that that you thought was lost never was. The veil can be parted, and you can see the divine manifesting in infinite ways. For me, and for those in this room, this is a very powerful equinox. For on this very same day, part of us that's back home is experiencing a spring equinox, and yet our physical body and our consciousness that is here is experiencing a fall equinox. But they're both equinoxes. They're the the same. The sun is shining on the North and the South Pole on that day. What an interesting experience. So, realizing that everything here is a folly, that it's going to go away. Nothing that you do is going to remain very long. Could create pyramids, but in another 100,000 years it'll be gone. 100,000 years in eternity is nothing. You create a religion. Millions of people follow it. Then they do what they do to all religions. They corrupt it because they know they have lost that. The one that started the religion had that connection, but the followers don't have it. And so they create this thing called churches and religions. And it's very, very destructive. Nothing you do here matters, but what matters is how you react. How are you doing this? And as you do your best to clear out yourself, to get rid of the angers and the fears and the aggression and all of the emotional attachments, and to emotionally attach and bring ourselves into to eliminate the ignorance, to start to dissolve the amnesia of our true self and experience our true self while still in the body, while still in this limited dream of creation. To do that is what you were created to do. That is your purpose, that is your job, and it will be your purpose and your job throughout all of eternity. It won't end. But it can be a lot of fun. Love one another. Because if you don't, you're not loving yourself. Help others. In doing so, you help yourself to awaken. When you selflessly give, just for the joy of it, just to look at the transformation that takes place on a person's face when you give them something that is so kind and wonderful, without expectation of anything in return. Life is so beautiful. So my friends, on the fall equinox, when the world is like, the circle, the Tao, where the dark and the light are circling around and facing each other. The extrovert energy of the summer starts changing into the introvert energy of the fall and of the winter. And then on the other equinox, the introvert energy moves into the extrovert energy. And we're right now in the middle. Good luck. Namaste.